All right, welcome and good morning, everyone. My name is Wendy Cho. I'm with Actera, Action for a Healthy Planet, and I'm part of the project team for the EV Council. The project team includes the Bay Area Air Quality Management District, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, or MTC, Actera, and Cool the Earth. I'm so very glad you've joined us this morning for the September meeting of the Bay Area EV Coordinating Council. And we have some other Actera staff helping us today. So a quick shout out to Michelle Kim and to Jackie Vera for helping us manage the slides and the Zoom controls today. Thank you so much. And please note we are recording this meeting. So I'll ask everyone to please stay muted during the presentation until we get to the portions where your participation is definitely encouraged. So if at any time you have any questions about the logistics, please pop those into the chat. We have an exciting event planned today, so let's get started by reviewing today's agenda. Next slide, please. All right, so today we will start things off with an EV market update provided by Kauleen Mercado of the Air District, looking at the latest trends. Then we'll move into our panel discussion on workforce development. We'll be looking at how to bring new talent into the installation and maintenance of electric vehicles and EV charging infrastructure, both in terms of the incentives and the programs and the collaborations that bridge sectors. We hope that the discussion today gives you knowledge and concepts to help your company or your jurisdiction get more involved in creating a successful pipeline. And we have 3 excellent speakers who will be sharing their experiences leading in this space. Then next on the agenda, we'll hear from Cool the Earth about the EV Council's brand new user-friendly funding navigator tool, which is a searchable database for efficiently tracking new information about funding opportunities, something we're all very excited about. And just putting in a plug for our next EV Council meeting, which will be November 7th, and the topic will be curbside charging. So please mark your calendars now for that date. And finally, we'll close with our usual roundtable updates from all of you. And so with that, next slide, and I'll turn things over to Kauleen Mercado of the Air District.
Thanks, Wendy. Hey, good morning, everyone. As Wendy said, my name is Kauleen Mercado, and I work on the light-duty EV programs here at the Air District. So I'll give just a brief update on the state of the market in the Bay Area. Next slide, please. So to recap our EV adoption goals for the Bay Area and the state, the Bay Area has set a target for 5 million vehicles, or 90% of the Bay Area fleet, to be zero emissions by 2050. And the Air District's EV acceleration plan set an interim goal of 1.5 million EVs in the Bay Area by 2030. And this aligns with the state's goal of 5 million EVs sold by 2030 and a phase out of all conventional vehicle sales by 2035. So let's look at how we're doing on those goals. As of 2023, EVs make up roughly 8.1% of the light-duty fleet in the Bay Area. And this is roughly 448,000 EVs out of a fleet of about 5.5 million. In Q2 of 2024, new Bay Area EV sales were about 611,000. And at the state level, zero emission vehicle sales in Q2 were 25.7% of all new vehicle sales. And that was California's second highest market share ever, which is exciting. And as we frequently discuss, we need sufficient and reliable EV charging infrastructure to support these EVs. It's estimated that the San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley region will need nearly 58,000 public charging ports in 2030, according to the National Renewable Energy Laboratory's 2023 report. The number of publicly available charging ports in the Bay Area has jumped to almost 19,400 as of August 2024, which is about a third of what we will need. Next slide, please. So these maps show where we are in terms of EV adoption in the Bay Area and across the state. And if you'd like to see the data set, the link's at the bottom of the slide, and these slides will also be posted online after the meeting. So in California, through Q2 of 2024, there have been just shy of 2 million new zero emission vehicles sold across the state. And if you look at the second map, the Bay Area has over 611,000 new zero emission vehicle sales, which accounts for about a third of the state's sales. And Santa Clara continues to lead with over 212,000 sales, followed by Alameda, San Mateo, and Contra Costa counties. Next slide, please. So just quickly, this chart breaks down public electric vehicle charging ports by type per Bay Area county, with level 2 in blue and DC Fast in gray. And similarly to the EVs, Santa Clara is leading the way, followed by San Mateo and Alameda counties. Next slide, please. Okay, and here's a quick peek at medium and heavy duty electric vehicles in California as of the end of 2023. And according to the California Air Resources Board, zero emission medium and heavy duty truck sales doubled in 2023, which is exciting to hear. So that concludes my update, and I will turn it back over to our moderator, Wendy. Thank you.
Thanks, Kaylee. So just a quick note, we're going to start with our panelist introductions, and then when you have a question, please hold that till the end, where we'll have a special section for the Q&A. So now it's my great pleasure to introduce our panelists. We have Jana McKinny from the California Energy Commission, Kauleen Menard from the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator, or LACI, and Orville Thomas from the California Mobility Center, and I will be serving as your moderator. Next slide, please. Jana McKinny is, excuse me, just one second. Jana McKinny is an Energy Commission specialist in the Project Integration Unit Strategy, Equity, and Economic Benefits branch of the Fuels and Transportation Division at the California Energy Commission, focusing on workforce training and development initiatives to support electric vehicles and supply equipment for the Clean Transportation Program. Jana was the lead author of the Zero Emission Vehicle Workforce Training and Development Strategy, a roadmap for Clean Transportation Program funding, and she oversaw the development of the Tribal Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Planning and Workforce Training and Development solicitation. Jana has served as agreement manager for select inclusive, diverse, equitable, accessible, and local, or ideal, ZEV workforce pilot projects, and has developed and managed the EVITP Fund interagency agreement with the Employment Training Panel to certify 3,000 electricians through the Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, with 50% of fund forces on DAC/LIC and rural areas. Current initiatives include scoping and concept development for a ZEV infrastructure assessment to identify regional workforce availability and skill gaps in developing an incentive program to fund training for electric vehicle supply equipment maintenance and repair. Next slide, please. Kauleen Menard serves as the Director, Green Jobs Regional Partnership for the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator. She's honored to convene regional leaders in the workforce development ecosystem and green economy to ensure historically underrepresented communities have access to high-road green jobs in Los Angeles County. In this role, she leans on 15+ years as an informal educator, facilitator, and leadership development professional. She enjoys exploring neighborhoods in LA on foot with her partner and cheering fanatically from the stands as an ACFC season ticket holder. Next slide, please. Orville Thomas serves as the CEO of the California Mobility Center, a clean energy, power, and zero-emission innovative collaborative headquartered in Sacramento. Prior to joining the CMC, Orville served as the State Policy Director for CalSTART, a California-based and internationally recognized clean transportation consortium. In that role, he oversaw government relations and regulatory affairs for the Western states. Orville has spent the last decade working at the intersection of clean transportation, clean energy, and health equity. He's worked for Governor Jerry Brown's administration and the California High-Speed Rail Authority, helped with successful campaigns to fund road and bridge repair, and helped pass a $1.5 billion clean transportation program reauthorization in the California legislature. Next slide, please. So we're going to begin with Jana's presentation. The themes that we'll be covering today on our workforce development panel: how is the EVSE industry growing to meet the challenge of reliability? What data needs must still be addressed? How could grant programs incentivize better outcomes? What are the characteristics of successful existing training programs? And how can we build out additional parts of the pipeline beyond training? What is the role of local jurisdictions? And as I mentioned, please hold your questions until the end of the panel. And so Jana, please take it away.
Thanks so much, Wendy. As Wendy mentioned, my name is Jana McKinny. I'm an Energy Commission Specialist in the Fuels and Transportation Division at the California Energy Commission. Next slide, please. So I'd like to start off by providing some background information about California's electric vehicle charger goals to frame the conversation about charger repair and maintenance. Assembly Bill 2127 requires the Energy Commission to publish a biannual report on the charging infrastructure that's needed for California to meet all of its zero-emission vehicle targets. The last assessment projects that California will need 1.1 million chargers. That includes 39,000 direct current fast chargers to support approximately 7 million light-duty plug-in electric vehicles by 2030. That does not include any charging infrastructure to support medium and heavy-duty applications. It's just light-duty vehicles. And then by 2035, that need will double to approximately 2.11 million chargers. That includes 83,000 DCFC chargers to support approximately 15 million light-duty plug-in electric vehicles across the state. So last month in August, we reached an exciting state goal of 150,000 installed public chargers. I like to share this graph to remind myself that the charger goals that are outlined in the AB 2127 report, this is an exponential curve, and we've just reached the inflection point. So over the next 5 years before 2030, as a state, we'll need to install more than 10 times the number of chargers that we just installed over the last 15 years. So get ready to buckle up as we ramp up with electric vehicle charger installation. Next slide, please. So before we jump into operations and maintenance and repair for chargers, I'd just like to clarify a few points that might come up regarding training for installing the electric vehicle chargers. The Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Training Program, or EVITP, is a certification that's required for electricians to install charging infrastructure. That's funded by the CEC, by CARB, or also chargers funded from the National Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Program, or NEVI. It's an online training program that costs $275. It takes roughly 20 hours to complete. The curriculum includes load requirements, electrical codes and regulations, installation of direct current fast chargers, inductive charging, vehicle to grid applications, and also best practices for charger maintenance and repair. So only general electricians are eligible to take this training program. Although EVITP does include a module on charger maintenance and repair, the certification is not required under state law to perform repair and maintenance on chargers. The Employment Training Panel is launching a new funding program called the EVITP Fund. This is funded by the Clean Transportation Program. And the EVITP Fund will provide stipends for general electricians to take the EV infrastructure training program. Next slide, please. So to start framing the conversation about charger reliability and then also maintenance and repair, I'd like to share with you some of the recent legislation from the California State Assembly on charger reliability. So Assembly Bill 2061 was passed in 2022 to support and improve public charging station reliability by first directing the Energy Commission to develop uptime record keeping and reporting standards for electrical vehicle chargers that receive incentives from state agencies or through ratepayer programs. And these are for electric vehicles that are installed after January of this year. And then second, in AB 2061, the CEC is required to regularly assess the reliability of California's electric vehicle charging infrastructure. This will begin next year in 2025. Then more recently, last year in 2023, Assembly Bill 126 was passed. It further directed the Energy Commission to adopt tools to increase charging station uptime. Also, it included uptime requirements and operations and maintenance requirements. AB 126 also mandates the Energy Commission to establish standards for how charging stations inform customers about the availability and accessibility of the public charger by January 1st, 2025. Next slide, please. So under the direction of AB 2061 and AB 126, staff at the Energy Commission have published the Tracking and Improving Reliability of California's Electric Vehicle Chargers Staff Report. This was recently published in April, and it proposes new reliability and performance requirements for public charging infrastructure. So let's talk about the uptime requirement first. Charger reliability can most simply be measured as uptime, or the percentage of time that a charger is functional. The proposed uptime requirement is 97%, and that's for public state-funded chargers that are installed after January 1st of 2024. The staff report also proposed a performance requirement, or minimum successful attempt charge rate, known as SCAR. A successful charge is defined as when a customer attempts to initiate a charging session, and then the charging session must last at least 5 minutes. The successful charge attempt rate for chargers that are installed after January 1st, 2026 is going to be 90%. So in general, these requirements are defined on a per port basis, not a per site basis, and they apply to electric vehicle chargers that receive a state incentive or ratepayer funding. Chargers that are used solely for private use at like a single family home or a multifamily dwelling with less than 4 units are not subject to the reliability requirements. There are also several exclusions for downtime periods, which may be entirely outside of the charging station operator's control. These are instances when a charger is not functional, but it's not counted against their uptime or SCAR rate. So examples of downtime exclusions include grid power loss, communication network outages, natural disasters, planned charger maintenance, and also vehicle faults. So I would encourage you all to read through the Tracking and Improving Reliability report for more details about the reliability requirements. It also provides information if you'd like to provide feedback on this report. Next slide, please. So we know that out-of-service chargers result in an increased charging anxiety and frustration for electric vehicle drivers. They also reduce consumer confidence for prospective electric vehicle owners. Plug-in America's Public Charging Experience Survey found that 40% of EV drivers were unsatisfied with public charging availability, and 70% had encountered a broken or non-functional charger within the past year. 51% of those EV drivers attempted to initiate a charging session at a public fast charger and were unsuccessful within the past year. So exactly how big is the problem? According to the Alternative Fuel Data Center, approximately 8% of public charging stations in California are temporarily unavailable. Charger Help's most recent annual reliability reliability report suggests that a station's self-reported status through like software or your mobile app actually overestimates the station uptime. Software inaccuracies can report false positives, false negatives, occupancy errors, and also undocumented station failures. The annual reliability report indicates that the failed charge rate is probably closer to 15 to 18%. Next slide, please. So who will be maintaining all of these chargers? How can we develop the workforce necessary to support our deployed charging assets? And what type of skills or training do these repair personnel need? So let's start with what's commonly most broken on chargers. Charger Help's annual reliability report provides some great information on the causes of failed charging sessions and downtime. From the outside, observable charger damage might be related to their components, like cable or connector issues or damage to the cabinet or screen. But a deeper look at the symptoms of down chargers reveals that 2/3 of all charging station symptoms are caused by internal component failures, communications, or software failures. By contrast, electrical problems and site damage such as vandalism combined only accounts for 2% of downtime symptoms. A variety of skills are needed to repair chargers. So repairs to wiring and utility connections should always be performed by an appropriately trained and certified electrician to ensure that the repairs are completed safely and accurately. Other repairs to hardware components might be performed safely by technicians following lockout tagout procedures that ensure the charger is effectively isolated from hazardous energy sources. Computer technicians are also needed to provide software support, address billing and communication failures. And then one additional job skill that I'd like to bring to your attention is the need for registered service agents. Just like gas pumps and other public weight or measuring devices, EV chargers need to be tested and sealed by a certified registered service agent before they're put back into service after repairs. So how many people do we need? The International Council on Clean Transportation, they've published a report called Charging Up America that estimates that one public charger will require 0.65 person days annually for electric and hardware maintenance. Each charger will also require 1 person day of software maintenance annually. Next slide, please. So last, I'd like to bring to your attention 3 initiatives from the Energy Commission that are funded by the Clean Transportation Program related to charger installation and maintenance. First is the EVITP fund that I mentioned. It's administered through the Employment Training Panel. The goal is to certify approximately 3,000 electricians. And the Employment Training Panel expects to roll out the EVITP fund this fall. Second is an objective from our recently published Workforce Training and Development Strategy to draft a ZEV infrastructure workforce assessment. With this analysis, we hope to identify regional workforce availability, skill gaps, and provide critical data and insights to best target workforce development funds, ensuring that a robust workforce is available to meet California's state ZEV goals. Our staff is currently working with other state agencies to develop the scope for the assessment and identify resources and potential partners for conducting the assessment. The last initiative I'd like to bring to your attention is an incentive program to fund training for charger maintenance and repair. So we're still also in the kind of scoping development phase for this incentive program. But there are already a wide selection of training programs available to maintain and repair chargers from colleges, third-party service providers, charger manufacturers, and also nationally accredited professional organizations. So this incentive program won't be funding curriculum development. It will fund people actually taking the training programs. So we're currently exploring different options for implementing the incentive program, either through block grants or a third party. And I encourage you all to take a look at the link and read through the draft staff report for the ZEV workforce development strategy. So that's it for the Energy Commission. I'll go ahead and turn it back over to Wendy.
Thank you, Jana. And I threw a few links into the chat, so we will have those in an email to you all in our follow-up after this meeting as well. Thank you, Jana. Next, let's bring up Kauleen from Lacey.
Thank you, Wendy, and thank you, Jana, for setting that up so nicely for me. Hello, everyone. Once again, I'm Kauleen Menard. I'm the director of the Los Angeles Cleantech Incubator's Green Jobs Regional Partnership. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about what Lacey does and then go into our workforce development programs and then my partnership. And so next slide, please. So Lacey started in 2011 as an incubator for clean tech businesses. So we have since grown to do multiple things, but all things go back to our mission, which is building an inclusive green economy with the focus on Southern California. So we have 3 priority areas. The first being transportation. That's everything from micro EVs to heavy duty EVs, as well as the EVSE infrastructure around that. Clean energy is another priority of ours, which it also includes that infrastructure around EVs, but including the grid and DER, so distributed energy resources, like heat pumps and anything electrical that's going to go into your house. And then we also have smart and sustainable cities. So really looking at the circular economy and making sure that as we are creating some of these new technologies, we're also thinking about the end life and end stage of these things. We do that through 3 strategies. So as I mentioned, we started out as an incubator. So we have 4 different programs that help incubate businesses from their idea phase all the way to them gaining sorry, I'm totally blacked out that word, market access. And then also we have funds, so our debt fund and our impact fund, so to help them to grow their business in those ways. And we also have different support services for those startups. The other area is our market transformation. So when our startups get to a place where they're trying to gain some market, so we'll help them with different like pilots, so usually our pilots are in underrepresented communities. So we make sure that these pilots are benefiting the Los Angeles community as a whole. We also help bring those products to a larger market as well. And then enhancing communities, which is my area, is really focused on making sure that we underrepresented communities have access not only to our startups and to the resources that we provide there, but also with the workforce development. So our workforce development started out to support our startups with their needs, which technically are not necessarily always around the actual tech. So it's sometimes around the support in terms of like IT support, sales support, and the like. So our workforce development programs focus on that, as well as we have a Women in Cleantech and a middle school girls in STEM program to help introduce women into this field. So that, once again, is all leading to our impact, which is the reduction of GHG emissions, as well as making sure that everybody has access to the green economy and high road jobs. So next slide. So our workforce development program, so we run 4 a year. We always start with a career exploration day. So this is a day of people can find out, what is still starting with the end first, right? So the end goal for us is that placement. So we start with what are the jobs that you can have after acquiring some of the certifications that we have, after acquiring some of the knowledge from the technical training. And then we move on to our technical boot camp. So for instance, we have programs that touch upon clean energy, so building energy management systems, where you are getting the knowledge and skills to take the HERS Rater certification. We also have an EVSE, which I'll talk about more, technician training program, where you will get the knowledge and hands-on experience to take the SAE certification for that technician training as well. And then we also do professional development. So we do not want to eschew the fact that a lot of the people that we recruit into our programs also need a lot of soft skill building. And actually, I think that a lot of people need that. And so this is around a career coach that we have for them called a PIR, Professional in Residence, who helps them with everything from their interview skills to writing their resume, to kind of figuring out what career they want to do within the green economy. So we help them with that. That's usually between 6 to 8 weeks. And then we move on to an internship. So 50% of each cohort. So typically that's between 15 and 20 people will have the opportunity to apply to a paid internship with either one of our startups or with a partner organization of ours. And so that's a 3 weeks of an internship that's paid at $20 an hour a minimum. And then we also provide job placement assistance to all of our fellows as well as our alumni. Next slide. So we, we want to make sure that we're touching upon the communities that traditionally do not have access to high road green jobs. And so we have very low barriers to entry, and we recruit from all over Los Angeles County, and even sometimes outside of Los Angeles County. But our requirements are just 18 years of age. You are currently under or unemployed. You have a high school diploma or equivalent, and proof of low income or low to moderate income status. Next slide. So these are our program resources. Really, this is about reducing any barrier that one could have to, one, be recruited into our program, but also to retain them over time. So we provide access to free laptops and Wi-Fi hotspot. Like I said, we have a paid stipend. That's about $750 for the technical training phase, plus an additional amount of $500 for transportation stipend. We also provide breakfast and lunch to our participants, as well as job placement services, as I mentioned. And we do send out a once a month newsletter to all our alumni and our current fellows, just to let them know what types of additional trainings are available in the green economy, as well as what are some jobs actually that are available with our startups and our partners. So next slide. So just some success metrics, like I said, while Lacey started in 2011, our workforce development programs didn't start until 2019. Once again, to kind of help provide our startups with some human capital. And so far we have graduated over 444 participants through our programs. And 88% of those fellows earn industry recognized credentials. One big thing about our program that I want to mention is, while we're training them for the technical skills of maybe becoming a HERS rater or an EVSE technician, we are also providing them with skills that are applicable to a bunch of different occupations. So for instance, sometimes when they go through our EVSE technician training, they're also getting training for a PMP. So they're getting that project management skill set as well, which can be used in the green economy or outside. And so these are actual needs from our startups that they have mentioned over time. And so we make sure that they're getting those dual certifications. So not just in the technical training, but also in an industry recognized skill, such as, like I said, project management, IT support, or sales. So we usually pair our programs that way. Next slide. So specifically about our EVSE Technician Fellowship. So you've already heard the name Charger Help. So I'm going to mention that quite a few times. So Charger Help helped us start our first EVSE Technician Fellowship. So that was Camille, who is the Terry, who is one of the co-founders of Charger Help. And so we have 40 participants who go through each year. And I would have to say, you know, just with all the information, all the different types of chargers that are coming through each year, this EVSE technician training has been updated based on just the accessibility of the technology that is out there. So it's an 8-week technical training boot camp this year, really focusing on, once again, those certifications that are helpful in a lot of different industries. So electrical safety certification, OSHA lockout, tagout, as Jana mentioned, and then the opportunity to sit for the new SAE EVSE field technician certification. So we offer it, we will pay for it for our fellows, and it's up to them whether or not they would like to take it. So Charger Help is also our technical trainer for this portion. So you can see in some of these pictures, some of the hands-on training that they're getting through that. So this is from this year's cohort. And alongside of that, they're also getting professional development training as well as the mentorship as I mentioned before. So next slide. So really the goals of the internship was one, yeah, like I said, the human capital, that capacity for our startups and our partners, but it's also to give our fellows a meaningful experience in the green economy. So because this is such a new area, this is a new occupation, you know, we really want to make sure that we're just dipping our fellows and participants' toe into the green economy. So people who come through our programs and make it onto an internship, sometimes it's not even within the EVSE scope if it is an EVSE fellowship. So we're, as I said, we want to start where our fellows are at and where they want to go. So it's really a one-to-one communication with them on, okay, so you've gotten this experience, where do you want to go next? It might not be within the EVSE field if that's the fellowship they're taking. It may be in the blue economy, or maybe in solar panels. And that's when we rely on our partners and we make sure that we can provide that career trajectory for them through partnerships with other organizations like GRID or with our community colleges. So next slide. So just wanted to give you so this is happening right now. Our 2024 EVSE fellowship is, we're almost about to start our 3-month internship opportunities. And like I mentioned, but I'll state again, so this is the first time that we've had an EVSE SAE certification or any type of certification for this position. And as Jana mentioned, this is, I'll just highlight, the technician training is not the electrician, right? So there you will find some job opportunities out there that have both of those combined, right? The electrician and the software, and they want you to do both. This is completely separate. This is everything after, as Jana mentioned, the lockout tagout is a EVSE technician is what we're training for. And these are some of the 3-month internships that and partners that we have available. So we actually just did this presentation a couple of days ago to our fellows. So these are some of those intern positions. Some of them are very EVSE specific to a technician. And then others are in a supportive role for EV and EVSC. So, you know, as Jana mentioned, Charger Help is actually has an intern that's going to be working on that registered service agent. So it's an intern who's going to develop the scope of work for the techs who are going to be doing that work. And then we also have people in sales working on lead generation, people who are working on the business development or account management side as well. So next slide. So we also offered them some full-time positions. So we always provide a full-time job placement to all of our fellows, regardless if they did an internship or not. And there's a couple of organizations that are new to us and who are old partners of ours who have some of those opportunities available. So these are also additional opportunities that some that are, once again, related to EV charging, some that aren't, but are still in the wheelhouse of the green economy that we've offered to our fellows. So they all have the opportunity to interview for these positions. Next slide. So just in total, that's, 16 opportunities. That's 50% of our class that we have now has, which is not exactly 40. We do have some loss on those numbers. We currently have 31 fellows, so 16 of them will be going into internships for another 12 weeks and for a minimum of 20 hours, but sometimes it's full-time with a stipend for their participation as well. Next slide. So I also just wanted to highlight, so overall, since we've been tracking since 2022, pretty much all of our EV and EVSE placements, for those programs. And these are just some highlights of alumni from our program and the full-time positions that they have taken on in the EV related space. So we have people who have gone on to become founders actually of our startup programs. So Wendy Mullen went on to start an organization called Charge System. And so she's part of one of our startup cohorts right now. We have people who are working, with some of the big, EV companies, General Motors, people who are working on EVSE, Green Wealth Energy, Evo Electric. We also have people working for the city on their fleet divisions, and with other organizations. Next slide. So we did have one youth-focused cohort, specifically for Opportunity Youth, and these are just some of the placements from there. So since 2022, Lacey's placed over 30 fellows from our EVSE, like our total EVSE programs, into full-time employment, and 14 were specifically in EVSE related positions. Next slide. So real quickly, I just want to talk about the partnership that I'm running. So the origin of the partnership really comes out of our workforce development programs and wanting them to be as successful as possible, and how can we scale those programs. And so we hired a consultant firm. They helped us put together this Green Jobs report in 2021. Which said that we could have 600,000 green jobs by 2050. And in order to get there, we should really focus first on the Olympic and Paralympic Games. So using 2028 to develop a roadmap now that really looks at targets across LA County and the cities within LA to see, what the low-hanging fruit is in terms of green jobs in LA, but using the Olympics as a catalyst. So next slide. So these are the 4 areas that report really focuses on, right? It's like build out career pathways. So really making sure that we have clear career pathways that are strong, that are accessible to underrepresented communities. And so really working on that and bolstering the pipeline also of underrepresented communities into those green jobs. So the partnership is working on that, as well as making sure that we have clearly defined metrics and definitions for everything. So as I keep saying green jobs, that you could be asking, well, what does that mean to you? So in our partnership, we are really working to come to maybe not necessarily a definition that we all agree on, but at least some criteria that we agree on for Los Angeles County. And so also, so we can track our progress over time. And then also spurring public and private investment in green jobs in this LA County. So next slide. So really this year for our 2028 roadmap that we're building, we're really focusing on the transportation electrification sector. So once again, looking at micro EVs to heavy duty battery electric vehicles and the charging infrastructure around that. So we really will be focusing in on our EVSE technician training course. And then also everything that's kind of connected to that. So the grid, battery storage, we're really focusing on making sure that we have microgrids and battery storage alongside all installed EVSE. And then, the end of life for all of those products. So not just the battery recycling, but also the EVSE recycling. Because actually right now, what happens a lot of times is people will just reinstall a whole new EVSE if it's broken instead of just replacing a component. So what are we doing with all of that technology at its end of its life? Next slide. So this is just where we are in the process of developing this roadmap. So we've already identified our key stakeholders. We have a leadership group, which includes LA County leaders from the Department of Economic Opportunity. The mayor's office is involved in this as well as a LARC, which is our Los Angeles Regional Consortium, which develops curriculum and programs for 19 community colleges in the county. We also have Unite LA, which focuses on K through 16 career education, and has been doing so for many years here in Los Angeles, as well as our utilities. So Southern California Edison sits on our leadership, but we are heavily partnered with LADWP because they are the ones who actually helped start Lacey. And so right now we're in the process of building that roadmap. So compiling the research that's already been done. So from the CEC and from others, and then determining, where are the gaps in our training for EVSE technicians and for electricians, and how can we help each other. And sorry, I also forgot to mention, we do have the unions on board as well. Smart Local 105, who is helping with BYD out here in Palmdale, and organizing those folks. So we really want to make sure that we have everybody at the table to really make sure that we're looking at it from all different angles. So not just the curriculum development, but also making sure that at the end of it, we're working with employers, we're working with the unions to ensure that we're looking at it from every angle. Next slide. Which I think is, yeah, so this is the last slide, just kind of showing who's in our research group on top of our leaders, which is, philanthropy, energy transit, unions, public sector, and workforce development agencies across the board. So we're in the middle in the process of developing the roadmap with this group. So I think that was my last slide.
Thank you so much, Kauleen. Thanks for giving us a little window into all the activities you're doing and how the program functions, and also the partners that you're working with. So now I'd like to turn things over to Orville to talk a little bit more about the things that are going on at California Mobility Center, and also what roles jurisdictions might be able to play to support this pipeline. Take it away.
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Kauleen. And I'll keep mine very short to spare people some time and be able to ask some questions. Next slide. California Mobility Center concept is to create a clean energy, power, and zero emission innovation collaborative located just down the road from the Bay Area in Sacramento, in a partnership between Sacramento State University, University of California, Davis, SMUD, which is our local municipal utility, and the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. It would be creating this 150,000 square foot building on 25 acres of Cal State University property, so that we can bring some of these workforce development programs, but also provide space for innovators and idea makers to accelerate their technology and prototyping and testing, and keep that ecosystem in California. We've heard so much from what Lacey's doing, and we really have this nice partnership and synergy where this might be a Northern California opportunity to do something similar, or for Lacey to show off some of their partners' technologies in Northern California, right next to the seat of government and the regulatory agencies, and also get to say hi to Jana when she's at the CEC. Next slide. The concept, and we'll probably stay here mostly, is just how do we become this regional innovation and ecosystem partner? And a lot on this part that we're talking about, obviously, is workforce development in the EVSE sector. And so we are working similarly to Lacey with Charger Help to continue to allow them a place to grow and to do their EVSE maintenance technician trainings. I'm actually sitting right now in our Charger Help classroom area. You could probably see one of the chargers right behind me that they use for their technician trainings. And we aim to do about 6 trainings in 2025. And I think what is going to be something I could talk about is how we decide on how many people to train, and also where the gaps are on how those people are getting hired. You've talked to Jana about the electrician kind of portion of it, and EVITP, Colleen's talked about kind of the workforce that they're developing. But what we're seeing is when we have these trainings, we might have 20 people per cohort. And I don't think we're still at that point yet where we have 20 jobs for those people readily available for them to get into right after they finish their curriculum. And so there is opportunities, I think, with a lot of people on this call as to identify a plan as to where we can have some of these handoffs happen after the workforce training programs are completed. And I think that in the experiences that we've had, we see a lot of opportunity working with municipalities and then working with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers or other electricians, and even the EVSE manufacturers. So what we have done at the CMC is kind of have a trio of classes that provide a real foundation for some of these community partners to get training. We have Introduction to Green Manufacturing, we have the EVSE technician training, we have zero emission forklift training so that they're available to kind of go into a warehouse and operate on the starter manufacturing jobs. But then we're also having an EV battery manufacturing curriculum that will start next year. And we think those classes themselves are going to provide like a real foundation for community partners to get into the workforce and to be able to be hired and to complete a large amount of these green tech kind of manufacturing jobs. So really thinking through where there are sticking points and where we'd love to get some feedback from you on this call is, are there jobs readily available at EVSE manufacturers? And what are those jobs going to be? When we have this charger help cohort, we're looking for EV maintenance technicians to come out and have a job that might be $25 to $30 an hour and make sure that they're able to do this work. And, from the first slide that we saw today, we acknowledge that there are problems with our current charger reliability standards and how many people, are able to pull up and have it ensured that they have a great experience from the first time that they plug in on the first charger that they go to. And there's also a large geography, especially from the Bay Area. We've heard these horror stories of, people going up to Humboldt, and it's the same technician working on a charger in Humboldt or on 101 that they'll see working on this chargers the week later in Fresno County. And so we have to grow this kind of community of EV charger technicians that are trained and readily available to address all the different chargers as we grow our NEVI network, as more air quality management district dollars flow into our local communities, and as those level 2s and 3s that are first generation start to get to their end of life and need to be transitioned over or kind of maintained for a couple more years. And so I think, I'll stop just by saying where we are looking at these points of opportunity, I'll label it, is how do we get more public works departments to start getting ready to invest in these EV maintenance technicians, knowing that they're going to have the advanced clean fleet mandate coming to them starting next year, and that they're going to have to change over their municipal fleet to battery electric or zero emission. How do we get others down the private sector that are going to be doing advanced clean fleet and the fleets in the Bay Area to start employing more EVSE technicians? And then how do we kind of allow for these partnerships, maybe with the electric trades to develop, and maybe even the alliance trades for the utilities to develop, so that the people who are graduating from Lacey and the California Mobility Center will have opportunities to go into a pre-apprenticeship program or an apprenticeship program so that they could get into the work necessary to install the EV chargers. I'll stop there and leave enough questions or time for questions.
Thank you so much, Orville. Great work that is going on. Let's bring up all of the panelists onto the screen, and I think we can stop sharing the slides for the moment. And I invite you to raise your hand if you have a question that you want to ask directly yourself. And also, if you want to put it in the chat, that's also fine. Those two ways will work. If you have a question in the chat, please indicate if you want to ask it verbally. And also, tell us who you'd like to answer the question. I saw that Colleen's already been busy answering the questions of Rachel DeFranco. So that question was, have you considered providing childcare for participants because it could encourage participation from those who are traditionally caretakers, for example, women? And Colleen also gave us some information about the demographics for last year's cohort in 2023. Do you want to comment on this, Colleen? I don't need to speak for you.
Yeah, sorry, I just realized, I think that says 36.9%, that's supposed to be female. I don't know why I went there.
Autocorrect, love the autocorrect.
Yeah, that's waffle. Yeah, so yeah, we do track these metrics. We're really trying to beef up our data collection. We're just switched over to Salesforce, so some of that is still coming for us. But we do track very basic things of race, ethnicity, gender, and do meet our goals in terms of increasing the amount of women who participate each year. And for instance, sometimes we do have women focused cohorts where we only accept women and non-binary individuals into those cohorts. So actually one of the first women focused cohorts was our EVSE technician training. So we have done one of those as well.
That's great. Thank you. So I had a general question, since you, Colleen, and others have been talking about sort of other skills that can be applied, whether it's important for people who are being trained in these careers to have some generalist training, to just be able to do some basic electrician related things that could allow them, as you said, to go into something like solar panels. So can you speak a little bit more about how you're opening up those opportunities in case they don't want to work on EVs in the future?
Yeah, so we really look at our programs as bridge programs. So while we do train people to become, like on that career route of becoming an EVSE technician, for instance, like I said, we also provide other industry recognized certifications and skill sets that are relatable within the green economy as a whole. So we do a lot of, almost everybody goes through our program, gets an OSHA 10 certification for high voltage. We want to make sure that they're safe in all those areas. We also, as I mentioned, have in the past had our EVSE technician training alongside a project management training. So we've had several individuals gain their PMP certification through us, which we pay for. We've also done EVSE and IT support. So we really want to make sure that as this field is growing, while it doesn't have a super defined set of skills for this occupation yet, but that's coming. We want to make sure that that people have access to other jobs that are supportive of the green economy. So I think, as I mentioned, a lot of times it's not about necessarily the engineer who's creating the product. Sometimes it's about that HR support, that IT support, that business development support, that at least for our startups, that's what they need in terms of some human capital.
Great. And I see there are some questions coming in for Orville. So there was a question from Rachel about
Yeah, it's like, do they drive, right? Like if they're fixing these EV chargers, are they driving EVs to them? And in a perfect world, there would be, right? Because we would have the reliability. But as I think I explained, for a lot of these contractors, time equals money, and being able to do these jobs equals the paycheck. And so without that reliability of the network going up to a Humboldt or going out to a rural part of the state, they probably need to drive these ICE vehicles more often. And I think I posed a question back to the chat of, if you're in a decision-making capacity here, or you have the information, like how many companies are starting to put EV mandates out there for their employees? Or when I worked at the state, it was a luxury item to be able to check in, and I would always check out the EVs or the plug-in hybrids, but it really wasn't kind of well thought through. And Jana might be able to talk about how some large employer like the state starts to kind of roll out the EV driving as part of the habit for work travel.
Yeah, would you like to comment on that, Jana?
I'm not super familiar with the any EV requirements at the Energy Commission. prior to moving to California, I did work for the Colorado Department of Transportation in their innovative mobility department. And one of the things that we were working on was transitioning the state fleet to EVs where possible. So we were installing a lot of electric vehicles at state locations. And I guess that was my first opportunity to drive an electric vehicle, which if anybody hasn't done it, they're amazingly fun, quick, zippy. But I like to think back on my experience at the Colorado Department of Transportation, and I'm not sure when I would have found an opportunity to drive an electric vehicle. I still feel like new electric vehicles are a little bit out of my price range, but there's definitely a vibrant resale electric vehicle market out here in California. Yeah, I guess that my only other thought about fleet transitions is that it's more than just getting your employee from point A to point B. You're probably providing them with an experience to drive an electric vehicle on a daily basis that they might not otherwise have. So yes, definitely a supporter of fleet transitions for electric vehicles.
Great. And if any of you are on the call managing fleets, feel free to pop your comments into the chat. Kathy Stanley, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, everyone. Kauleen, I had a question for you. How do you go about outreach to these underrepresented community members to recruit them to participate? Do you work with local community-based organizations? Just curious how that goes.
Yeah, I mean, exactly that. So we have a lot of community-based organization partners who are often on our market transformation side, some of our pilot sites and some of our organizers of our pilots for our tech. So we reach out through them. We also have partnerships with community colleges. So we do attend a lot of their career fairs. I actually just did tabling at, so the mayor's office has a program called Inside Safe. And so it's for people who formerly homeless, and it's over time helps them pay for their apartment on a reducing scale. And so, I was able to meet and outreach to a lot of individuals who were formerly homeless. So we do have a lot of partners that we reach out to. It's a lot of face-to-face. We try to meet people where they're at because, just posting it on LinkedIn doesn't get you anywhere. So we do a lot of tabling, a lot of in-person events.
Any other thoughts from Orville or?
Yeah, the only thing I'll add, and we do something probably very similar, is that we have grant funding that allows us to kind of provide funding to our CBO partners for those that they're successfully able to do outreach to, understanding that everyone has to pay for some of those touches to the community. But, what we're also trying to see is how can we provide language services in, the language that they're most comfortable with, while also navigating the safety risks that are involved with things like high voltage training, right? And warning signs. And, Sacramento, we have a large refugee population from Afghanistan and Ukraine. And so how are we kind of mixing in with the community colleges, opportunities for ESL classes and being able to have people speak to them in their native tongue, but also maintaining, that English proficiency so we could get them to a point where they would be able to then be hired for some of these opportunities. And we've had some companies, I think more on the forklift side, come in and provide us with a translator to allow them to at least just like learn that skill while they then wait for the ESL kind of certification so that they're able to take the tests and do the examinations. So it's like balancing the necessary means for safety with also how are we reaching out to some of these populations. And I think something that we probably touched on is how are we getting with the justice impacted communities, and how are we making sure that we're training them for jobs that employers are willing to give them a chance to work for or not disregard them. And we're starting to have those like really big conversations, especially when it comes to EV battery manufacturing. And then one of the things that I got just from talking to an individual is, she was taking the training here in Sacramento, but when she was going to be kind of done with her time in the carceral system, they were going to take her back home to, the Humboldt area, where the opportunities for working in green manufacturing or EVSE training aren't the same. So how do we kind of work with people that are doing rehabilitation or transitional work in jobs programs to kind of make sure that one of the things that they take into account for success is, are the programs that they're learning going to actually be in the communities that they have to go home to? Or how do we make sure that they're coming back to the communities that they're actually training in?
Wow, that's a lot of moving parts. Yeah, thank you for that, Orville. And thanks for the question, Kathy. There was a question in the chat from Melanie, and it looks like it was about the opportunities for maintenance of EVs or EVSE tech electrician opportunities in San Mateo County. And thank you, Jana, for typing your answer to that. Do you want to elaborate at all?
Sure. I was going to add another one in there. I was the commission agreement manager for Cerritos Community College's ZEV High School pilot project. It was a neat program that just wrapped up last year, and it provided funding for high schools to buy Swift electric kit cars. These are electric cars that high school kids can put together in a semester. At the end of the semester, they get to unbuild them, so the next semester can put the car together all over again. But it provides a really good introduction for high school kids to get a taste of electric vehicles. And Cerritos has also developed quite a few courses about integrating electric vehicle repair into your existing high school automotive program. And Janet Malig is a great contact at Cerritos if you'd like more information on those programs. So
that's great. Is there kind of an industry conference or something where people can trade ideas like this on starting up high school programs or educational opportunities like that? Do you recommend any kinds of events that happen?
I
Not
know
to put you on the spot.
last year there was EV 36 up here in Sacramento.
EVS 36. I think the only one I would know about is the SEMA conference, the Engine Manufacturers Association. They're doing a lot of work on EV. Well, I think tangentially they do a lot of work on EV maintenance because there's a lot of members that are doing EV conversion kits. So there is now kind of this cross curriculum being developed from high voltage systems and handling batteries, those types of things, and Jana and Kauleen, I'd love your thoughts too. I think it's still early nascent stages about how to develop kind of the EV maintenance plan that could be universal and a curriculum, somewhat because the manufacturers each have their own battery systems that are so proprietary to them, where they place it, how they design it, the battery management. So what we're seeing in some of our graduating class and opportunities is, because they'll have these OSHA 10 certifications, because they'll have kind of familiarity with wiring and high voltage systems, that they can go and not just do EVSE maintenance, they could do EV maintenance pretty quickly. We see companies like Lucid, Rivian, Tesla, and others be able to hire them. And then also these secondary companies that are more private that do work on them post-market will be able to hire them also.
Kauleen or Jana, any other comments on that?
Yeah, just to add on, that's exactly the same thing that's happening with, you said, like EV batteries and EVs as it is with EVSE, right? And at our training facility, we also have a hub with Charger Help. So it's their home office in South LA. We have about seven different types of chargers there that our students learn on. We're trying to get more, just because you need to have that experience with all the different types that are out there, because they are so different and, as we said, proprietary. So I will say Charger Help is working on that. They are leading a coalition to talk about the interoperability issue of EVSE and how to make sure that there are standards So I know that they're working in that space. And I think there was another question in the chat. If do we collaborate with like Cleantech incubators or green jobs training programs in the Bay Area? Not that I'm aware of. So the partnership that I'm doing right now is actually in the process of collecting where are all those training that we have, not just in the Los Angeles County area, but in California in general. And so we're in the process of saying, okay, what are the community colleges doing around EV as well as EVSE? And I can tell you right now that there are more like EV car technician trainings available from the community college standpoint than there are EVSE. But yeah, where are the gaps and where can we scale and expand that? And so hopefully we'll have that in our roadmap that's going to be published at the end of this year.
Thank you for that. And we have actually a couple questions up in the chat from Maureen for Jana about California's EV charging goals and how they seem very difficult to reach given the siting and implementation hurdles at many levels. Are you looking at any ways to speed up these charging station installs? And I'm wondering if you have some comments on that, and maybe if you also want to refer to your needs assessment request that you've got.
Yeah. So the Energy Commission and GoBez are working quite closely together to streamline the permitting process for installing chargers. We've also noticed, well, let's hear. We've also noticed that the availability of the workforce varies greatly regionally. There might be a lot of workforce available to install chargers in like the Bay Area, but when you get into Southern California or Northern California, there isn't as installing electric chargers is still fairly new, so there's not a lot of workforce there yet. That's one of the main drivers of our ZEV infrastructure assessment is to look for any, regional skill gaps for installing chargers. And I'd also like to point out that the majority of our programs, especially those that are funded through the Clean Transportation Program, like the EVITP fund, 50% of those funds will be targeted at certifying electricians that are in priority populations. So DIC, LIC, electricians that are in rural areas, and also tribal areas. So we're trying to eliminate some of the points of friction here. One of those has been finding EVITP certified electricians outside of major metropolitan areas. And we also get a lot of feedback on the permitting process with a lot of our infrastructure grants. So those are two of our focus areas.
I love it. Maureen, you asked like the question that Jana can't answer anyway, just because of intra-government kind of works. What we all also probably know is, in addition to workforce, there's some problems with interconnection and energization, and that is something that is being really discussed at higher levels, right? There's legislation that's pushing the CPUC to have a timeline for investor-owned utilities. And that there's a lot of conversations about how can we, in service areas where it's just not going to be timely to get more energy and power to sites, start looking at battery energy storage systems that are able to plus up, what is currently existing. Or, you have pilot programs now throughout the Bay Area where there's built-in solar microgrids that would be able to just provide some kind of energy for level 2 and level 3 chargers. There's still so much work to be done to get the permitting process kind of in place to the point where it could speed up. But I think that, between the Energy Commission, CARB, CPUC, and the Governor's Office of Business and Economic Development, GoBiz, that they have a lot of the pieces coming together to form this work group and to get that moving in the right direction, especially if we want to meet these goals that California set out for advanced clean cars, advanced clean fleets, and advanced clean truck.
Great. Well, just with a few more minutes to wrap up, I'd love each panelist to kind of close out with something they're looking forward to in 2025 for their work. And we can start with Kauleen.
Thanks. And I think what I'll do is, I don't know if I answered this question from Isabel in the chat, but are there future, plans to scale this workforce development? Yes. So that is one thing that we would love to do at Lacey, is to scale this, and hopefully with our community college partners, our EVSE technician training. And really work also with, Jana, and as she's collecting data around that and building out curriculum, just to make sure that we're all on the same page. And so I think that really is the goal of our roadmap, is really, like I said, going to focus on EVSE and EV training and the career pathways there. And so really trying to make sure that we're going to be taking steps between 2025 and 2028 to make those super solid, make them, visible to a lot of people, and to make sure that there are some standards.
And Jana?
So I am a big fan of data. I always have lots of questions. Sometimes workshops like this are hard because a lot of your questions are my questions and I may not know the answer yet. So I'm very much looking forward to getting started on our ZEV infrastructure assessment. I'm a big fan of data-driven decisions, and I feel like this is such a new field. Even things like occupation codes related to EVSE. When you're starting to report back to the Department of Industrial Relations, there's no occupation codes that are related to electric vehicle chargers or installation. So I'm very excited to be working with other state agencies on the ZEV infrastructure assessment, and I'm excited to see what the results are. So helping people to get started.
Yeah, we all love data. That's why we're here. Thank you so much, Jana. And Orville.
Yeah, I'm excited about, kind of turning the tide on the EV charging experience. I think we're going to see a lot of level 1 or generation 1 chargers be replaced. We're going to see NACs come out with different connectors and more availability. So that's going to be a better experience for a lot. It's going to have kind of industrialized and standardized, the charging experience. And we are, through a lot of the work of Lacey and Charger Help, seeing this first group of EV charger technicians that are trained and coming into the workforce. And so I think that's like a really strong opportunity, and especially in the Bay Area where, we're doing a lot of this work now to train kind of the next group of charger technicians, where Lacey has probably some people that would love to be hired by Bay Area companies. There's this real opportunity, I think, at hand for us to put some money into this movement and to get more maintenance workers. And especially as these silver tsunamis are hitting in the electricians trades or our public works departments, or, the people that we're going to be charging to install and fix these chargers, we need to have a thoughtful workforce transition plan so that we could hire new people to come in. And, let's be thoughtful about who we hire and how we hire them, and make sure that we're doing it in equitable ways.
Well, thank you so much to all the panelists, Orville, Jana, Kauleen, for your insights and for your work. And we look forward to hearing more good things about what you've been up to. So thanks again for being here. And thanks to everyone who asked questions. So now I'd love to move on and turn it over to Kathy Stanley from Cool to Earth to talk about the EV Funding Navigator. And Michelle, could you bring the slides back up, please?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm Kathy Stanley from Cool to Earth. And I think Orville's last comment about getting the funding was a great segue to talk about our next topic. So we're excited to announce that the EV Funding Navigator is now live. As many of you know, the Biden administration has allocated an unprecedented amount of funding to develop EV infrastructure. And our focus has been on ensuring that stakeholders like yourselves can more readily access these funding opportunities. So earlier this year, we formed a dedicated working group, bringing together key representatives to create a tool that raises awareness of available grant opportunities. Some of that group is on the call today, so thank you to them. This user-friendly tool that we developed simplifies grant information for potential applicants, such as a lot of the people on this call, city governments, nonprofits, transportation agencies, tribes, CBOs, CCAs, and utilities. It includes grants at the federal, state, and regional level, and for funding of charging infrastructure for light, medium, and heavy duty and e-mobility projects. So the EV Funding Navigator is designed to make it easier for these organizations to find and apply for the funding they need to advance EV infrastructure development. It's available now on the on the Air District EV Council webpage. Thank you for adding it to the chat. And let's go to the next slide. So the best way to use this tool is just to go ahead and download the file. It's a Google Sheet format, so probably very familiar to most people. And that way you can just sort it and filter it based on the criteria that is most important to your organization. So we're just going to take a brief look at what's on the sheet itself. The first tab has some instructions. Next slide, please. And then the second tab is where you'll find the actual list of grants, including 20+ criteria for each opportunity. And then note at the top, you'll see that it's called out that we have the last date that it was updated. So each time we update the sheet, that will be updated as well. So you'll know how recent it's been updated. Next slide, please. So we took 2 criteria and broke it out into major categories. One is eligible applicants, because we know that's super important for everybody searching, and also type of program. Hopefully this will make the searching even more convenient for you. Next slide. And then we have a third tab, and this is just a list of the criteria and definitions for those criteria. And then below that, which is not shown on this slide, we also have a list of the sources of the different grants that we included. Next slide, please. So I just want to say thank you to the working group members who contributed their insights and experiences in grant seeking to help shape this tool. We all know how complex and challenging grant applications can be, and I'm recalling that in our very first meeting, we spent a good portion of the time just sharing stories of frustrations and challenges in grant seeking. Our hope is that this tool will not only raise awareness of available opportunities, but also simplify the process just a little, making it easier to pursue funding. Going forward, the plan is to have resources from the Air District updating the list. And by the way, they're open to volunteers to help with that effort. So if your organization either has a grant opportunity you'd like to include on this list, or if you have someone on your team that'd be interested in helping update the list, please contact us at the email here, evcouncil@baaqmd.gov. So we're really excited and hope that it helps some of the people on this call. Does anyone have questions? Please let me know and you can put them in the chat.
Thank you, Kathy. And is it okay if I just read off the names of the working group participants?
Yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, Kara, Brendan, Michaela, Dulce, Suzanne, Joy, Monica, Jennifer, Megan, and Maya. And of course, the project team as well. So yeah, thanks to the whole working group for your hard work.
And to Kauleen, who couldn't be here today, but hopefully will be at the next meeting.
Great. Well, thank you, Kathy. We'll move on now to the next slide. And if there are no questions, so just a reminder about our next upcoming meeting, which will be November 7th. It will be virtual on Zoom, and the topic will be curbside charging. We have 2 confirmed speakers, Luke from VoltPost, Luke Myro, and Tia Gordon from It's Electric. And this will be a really exciting topic for us because there's a lot of developments going on right now in the Bay Area around curbside charging. So we hope you will be able to join us for that. It will be an afternoon meeting from 12 to 2. And so we'll send out more information about that as well. Next slide, please. So now it's time to open it up to all of you for your updates. Please raise your hand and I will call on you to speak. And following the updates, we will adjourn. Yes, James. And actually, Michelle, could you stop the slides and that way we can see each other better? Thank you. And you can remove my spotlight as well.
Hey, everyone. Thanks, Wendy.
Sure.
Everyone, James Cho with the Metropolitan Transportation Commission. So we are in the process of developing and releasing a call for projects over a suite of projects, not just EV related. In total, this will be a suite of what we anticipate 62 million in planning and capital grants. Again, it's not just EV focused, but of that 62 million, we anticipate releasing a call for 20 million for EV charging infrastructure. We are hoping to release this within the next month or so. There'll be a lot of announcements, hopefully reaching your inbox. But if not, keep an eye out or reach out to me to get updates on that. Share with your colleagues. Again, this is a suite of projects. So if you're with a city, county government, or other public agency, there'll be other grant opportunities, both planning and capital, for example, parking planning, parking capital, mobility hubs planning, mobility hubs capital, and then a bunch of housing and land use planning projects. And then there'll also be a fund for active transportation and capital design. But again, for this group, probably the most relevant is this 20 million that will be hopefully releasing a call for projects. And they'll be all announced at a single time. There'll be hopefully a streamlined application process where you can consider all these opportunities together. So if there are any questions, reach out to me. And then again, we'll be releasing this call soon. Thanks.
Thanks, James. And maybe put your contact info in the chat if you want people to reach out to you. Thanks. Kaylee.
Hi again, everyone. I just wanted to make a pitch. If anyone is planning National Drive Electric or EV Week events in late September and would like the Air District to promote those events through our networks, please email the event details to the Air District at evcouncil@baaqmd.gov. I'll put the email address in the chat and we will try to promote those for you. Thank you.
Thanks, Kaylee. And yes, National Drive Electric Week is coming up pretty soon. So we're looking forward to hearing all of your events if you have any to share. Thanks, Kaylee. Any other updates from anyone on the call? Yes, Kathy.
Hi again. Just wanted to mention that Ride and Drive Clean is offering an EV discount campaign through the end of September. 3 fully electric and 1 PHEV, all with great discounts off of MSRP. We'd appreciate spreading the word about that as well. So I'll put a link to the chat in the chat. Thanks.
Sure, yeah. So, just so folks are aware, if you aren't already, I used to be with the city of Fremont, and I have moved over to a position with the city of Palo Alto Utility overseeing our e-mobility programs. So just, wanted to give kind of a quick rundown of what we're doing in Palo Alto. We have a pretty hefty incentive program for EV charging, where we're focused on getting EV charging into multifamily properties and looking at ways to expand our reach currently. We also have been doing a lot of education around electric vehicles and e-bikes and partnering with Ride and Drive Clean on discount programs. And right now we're exploring doing some mapping of e-mobility, looking at, where existing charging infrastructure is, where, we have potentially EV charging deserts, where there's clustering of multifamily properties and potential for sites that are publicly owned or maybe in partnership with a church or something where we could potentially put in e-mobility charging hubs. So all of this is getting captured in an e-mobility strategic plan that we're working on now, and that will probably be coming out early next year for folks to be able to take a look at.
Thank you, Rachel. And feel free to put stuff in the chat if you want to share it there. Thank you so much. Jackie.
I just wanted to share that Actero will be having a ride and drive in the city of San Jose, the PayPal stadium, and you'll be able to drive EVs. That's on September 28th. And you'll also have the opportunity to meet some of the players from the San Francisco Earthquakes. But I also wanted to share that we're looking for volunteers. So if you could share it with your network, if you're in the San Jose area, that'd be very appreciated.
Thank you, Jackie. All right, well, thank you very, very much, everyone, for coming. And thanks again to the panelists for their awesome presentations. We will send out a recording to this in a week or so, and we look forward to seeing you again soon in November. It'll be post-election, so that'll be interesting. But all right, everyone, have a wonderful Wednesday, and thanks for coming.